guys, happy Sunday with Satan. So, anyways, back into part whatever of, I don't know, of the Venus study. So, here we go. Alright, so, now the fundamental aspect of the regeneratrix as Venus is what Gimbuta calls the goddess as mistress of the upper waters. So, where the sacred feminine is worshipped in the Upper Paleolithic in the form of water as life-giving source connected to the cosmos. So Gimbutas states that the Magdalenian sites of Montespan and Tuctabret in France, a stream flows from the mouth of a cave, the language of the goddess. Likewise, at the site of the Les Isies de Dayak, her underground water flows from the sacred cave of the goddess through the town. So the worship of the water is evident in connection with the goddess. Many Paleolithic sanctuaries and caves contain lakes and subterranean rivers associated with what Gimbuta calls a long-lasting belief in the magical potency of streams and wells. So yes, obviously, very important in goddess worship are streams and wells, and that's where the fairy folk are too. So, where do you go? Oh, on the Upper Paleolithic and Mesolithic figurines, Gimbutas notes streams in the form of comets or parallel lines in diagonal, vertical, or meander bands are frequent motifs of the Upper Paleolithic and Mesolithic mobiliary, and parietal art. Wow, I cannot talk or read today. So these comet streams are found on female images, symbolizing the divine moisture within the body of the goddess. So on the Roc de Marcamps, Grande, France, whatever. The comet. Where'd I go? Striations closely that resemble the pattern of Venus in the night sky where the planet moves from the horizon as the eastern star to the western star and under the horizon, forming a definite cone shape. Movement in later mythologies identified with the goddess climbing the world tree. I cannot talk. So the pattern of the movement of the goddess from the underworld to traverse the cosmos, bringing the moisture from below into a transmogrifying blue comet-like straight line of light in life, is also marked on the bodies of the goddess in Paleolithic art, where the goddess resembles a water bird. So on a plaque from Gondersdorf, Germany, I hopefully I said that right, the bodies of 3 water bird goddesses are serrated with net patterns and filled with divine moisture. So likewise, a relief of bird goddess at Pechmerel, France, from the early Magdalenian is overpainted with water striations, as are many bird goddess figurines from the Paleolithic era. So Gimbutas comments that the bird goddess was the source and dispenser of life-giving moisture, an early and enduring human preoccupation. So, as a water bird, she united heaven and earth, and her terrestrial home was probably believed to be mirrored by a celestial watery realm. So in later mythologies, the association of the water bird with the goddesses of the Neolithic, Bronze, and Iron Age cultures persists, most evident in the association of Aphrodite with the swan and the goose, and with Care and the swans at Newgrange, Ireland. So as a mistress of the upper waters, the bird goddess's flight, it represents a type of epiphany where the feminine source of birth and creation traverses realms to reach celestial or cosmic heights. Her journey follows the pattern of Venus in the night sky, and her image as a water bird emerges clearly in the Paleolithic era as an important element. So moreover, there is evidence that rituals in the cave sanctuary use the naturally formed stalactites at the back of the caves to represent the column of life, the world tree, the world axis that regeneratrix climbs. So, to to demonstrate the journey of the regeneratrix from the waters of creation, symbolized by the subterranean waters of the cave. The stalactites that formed a column were carved with symbols of the goddess. So, her emergence from the cave symbolizes the emergence of the planet Venus from below the horizon at the beginning of her cycle through the night sky. Much like the conception in the womb, the rituals of the goddess in the caves are steeped in sexual metaphor and meaning. Wonderful, it's beautiful, it's really beautiful. So it is here where fertility rites most likely took place. Now, in the cave of Les Coques in the town of Montignac, France, numerous female signs are present in the 7 naturally formed chambers of the cave that lead to the sanctuary at the cave's end. So the end chamber, called the Chamber of Felines, is reached by passing through several chambers where animals seem to run toward the end of the chamber, aided by a male shaman. About 60 feet in the passageway from the first room, called the Rotunda, were 2 rooms called the apse, and its shaft. So the formation of these rooms forms a 120-degree angle, with the apse at as a ante-chamber, so to angle. So this exact angle formation in the apse, whatever that's called, was built in the Neolithic structure of Pierres Plates in Morbihan, France, near Carnac. Okay. In Pierres Plates, the titled passage, the apse, the signs and the symbols of the Venus cycle on the stones, and the location of the temple itself on the Bay of Morbihan attest to the fact that it too was aligned to the cycles of Venus and possibly modeled after Les Coques or other temple caves of the Paleolithic. So, in both Les Coques and Pierres Plates, the angled chamber serves as a view room where the light of Venus may be seen in the shaft, or Venus may be viewed from the shaft. So the shaft has been noted by archaeologists as a shaft that was definitely not used as an entrance. So literally, like, stone circles, places like that you can't actually go through would be definitely linked to the goddess. So it's pretty interesting. All right, now the apse is a small chamber of about 5 yards in diameter that is covered with thousands of engraved lines, which are exactly like the comet streams on the female images, symbolizing the divine moisture of the goddess. Here too are the only representations of the full-bodied female of what André Leroy-Gourhan identifies as the claviform of the goddess, yet known in the Pierregaard. Butchering these words. These female symbols are accompanied by quadrangular signs, similar to the quadrangular signs on a necklace of what most likely the high priestess's body discovered in La Madeleine ou du Roc de Cave in nearby Tursach, Dorgan, dating 15,780 BC, and exhibited in the Musée de les Aïstes de Tayac, whatever. Many similar quadrangles used for the counting lunar cycles of months and, processional lunar cycles are also seen in Les Ies. I can't speak French. This out of the ordinary aspe, chamber, and shaft comfortably fits 2 people standing or sitting with a backdrop of a Paleolithic scene framed by an immersed chevron or a V sign, partially composed from the natural formation of the rock and the man-made carving. Now, on the stone rim of the shaft are several more engraved claviforms, such as those at Le Touc de Abroch. I don't know how to say that. So, in the painting scene is a rhinoceros with 6 dots in 2 rows of 3 under his tail. Barbed signs with lateral dots, and a figure of a bird, another symbol of the mistress of the upper waters, as well as a speared bison, an italic man, and several horses. So, although an exact interpretation of the meaning of the prehistoric animals in their mythological context is speculative, the location, size, and unmistakable immense V sign, as well as the other symbols, are signs connected with the regeneratrix and the mistress of the upper waters, is clear. So, birds are rare in cave art, and the presence of the bird, the V signs, the claviform signs, the quadrangles, and most importantly the shape and orientation of the apse and shaft may bring to light another view of this ancient sanctuary and passage temple. So the most curious display in the apse painting in the series of horses that are running toward the immense V. The last horse in the series reaches the point of the V and is turned on its side. So if the men and animals in Paleolithic art symbolize the masculine force entering the feminine sacred, which is the cave, as the womb and or uterus, and perhaps reaching the epiphany of the experience inside the womb, and at the end of the shaft, at the point of the V, might represent the orgasmic experience of losing oneself to the eternal female as sacred, thus implying that the sex act itself, is one of a sacred nature. So in the monuments of the Neolithic, Bronze, and Iron Age, the idea of sex as a sacred act in the name of Aphrodite, as well as a parallel forms of this goddess of regeneration, are an essential metaphor in the worship of Venus, found in Lascaux, perhaps as one of the most primeval temples of its kind. That's really interesting. I mean, really interesting. So, another cave temple attributed to the worship of the goddess of regeneration is the Chauvet cave in the Ardèche region of southern France. So the end chamber of the cave, known as the sacristy, is marked at its entrance with 3 abstract vulvas. Okay. And on its right wall is a painting called the Lion Panel. So opposite the Lion Panel, the first image seen when entering the chamber is a large stalactite with the painting of a half-man, half-bison, seeming to mount a large vulva near the hip of the bottom half of a woman's body. Now the vulva depiction is a filled oval pointing upward with a very concave base emphasized with a mark indicating the opening of the vulva. The shape of the stalactite is unmistakably phallic and fleshy in appearance, and the chamber is unmistakably shaped like the womb of the goddess. Now, Judith Thurman, in the recent article in the New Yorker, June 23, 2008, which is a while ago, remarks that the depiction appears to be part of the bottom half of a woman's body, with heavy thighs and bent knees that taper at the ankle, with a darkly shaded vulva and no feet. And the half-bison, half-man appears to have an aroused eye. So a line branching from his shoulder looks like a human figure with fingers. And the woman seems to be in a squatting position as if giving birth to the images of the bison and felines that line the walls of the chamber. So again, the chamber is a small sacred place at the end of the cave that evokes a highly sexual metaphor, as most probably was used for fertility rites. It's very, very interesting. So, now, the stalactite formation, the womb, cave, and the sexual metaphors in the Paleolithic are the primary images related to what Maria Gumbaras calls the columns of life. Now, like the image of the bird and the storation of marks of water and life, the column of life, later known as the world axis, or the world tree, is an inherent necessary symbol in complex of images associated with the goddess of regeneration and the planetary movements of Venus. So the goddess in her many forms mounts the columns of life to her moment of epiphany, and then descends into the upper world to conceive life from love in an ever-returning cycle. So like the planet rising and descending from the horizon in the east and west, and then for a brief time remaining under the horizon, their paths are similar and cyclical. So Gimburas traces the origins of the 2 columns of life from the Paleolithic cave of Dorgan and the Tudabert, whatever, to the Neolithic. Alright, sorry guys. Where was I? Okay, so... Alright, now. Okay, so the womb-like caves, such as those in Cutala, Crete, and Scaloria, Italy, were more than 1,500 vases with symbols of the goddess painted on them were discovered in the lower section of the cave. Gimburas goes on to cite caves used by the Minoans, such as the cave of Aletheia, east of Heraclion, and those at Sycro for rites associated with regeneration. On one middle known multifaceted seal carved with a live column and a sprouting plant as a whorl or 8-pointed star, a symbol of the regenerative forces of Venus in its 8-year cycle. So that's pretty interesting. So numerous figurines embodying the idea, the columns of life, as a vital force of regeneration, by depicting what Gimbutas calls a fusion of the phallus with the divine body of the goddess, which begins in the upper Paleolithic. So some of the Venuses of this period have phallic heads and no facial features. So they have been found in northern Italy, Bavaria, France, and most importantly in Cyprus, the mythical birthplace of Aphrodite in Greek mythology. On the figurines from Cyprus, Gimbutas notes, although the male element is attached, these figurines remain essentially female. They do not represent a fusion of two sexes, but rather an enhancement of the female with the mysterious life force inherent in the phallus. The goddess figurine creates a base form which the phallus, understood as a cosmic pillar, rises. It comes from her womb in the same way that stalagmites and stalactites grow from her womb in the cave. In one phallic figurine from Cyprus, the two views present anatomically correct images of both female and male genitalia, where the female appears to be birthed from the testicles of the male when seen from the bottom. So the figurine calls to the mind of the birth of Aphrodite herself. Now, in Greek mythology, Aphrodite rose naked from the foam of the sea and stepped first on Cythera, then on Cyprus, her principal seat of worship. According to Hesiod in Theogony, as soon as he, Kronos, had cut off the members with flint and cast them into the land, into the sea, they were swept away over the main a long time, and white foam spread around them from the immortal flesh, and it grew a maiden. Another characteristic of Venus, seen in the emerging primordial archetype of the Paleolithic art, that can easily be traced to later cultures such as Greek and Roman culture, are the reclining nude figures of the goddess. So although the furthest chamber of the caves, with marked columns of life such as those in the caves at Lescox and Chauvet, are at the far rear of the cave, indicating a more likely place for fertility rituals. So the entrance to the cave is where reliefs or carvings of female figures, such as the reclining nudes, have been found. So at Les Iezes de Tayac in Dorogon, whatever, there is a cave shelf with sacred water basins and an area large enough for a gathering at Les Salles, France. Outside the cave entrance, there are the reliefs of the triad of the goddess at the Angles sur Anglin. Vienna, the three colossal female figures manifest above the head of a bull at the cave entrance. Now, most importantly, at the cave at La Madeleine, reclining nude women and large pubic triangles decorate the entrance. So the most likely scenario in the ritual use of the phallic or Paleolithic caves would be that the entrance would serve for gatherings, and in the case of Les Ies and La Madeleine, where the entrance is aligned northeast, northwest to southeast, they most likely were used for sitting of Venus rising as the evening star. In early or late spring, while likely they were used, or late spring, while the inner chambers were used for fertility rites and rituals. In fact, the depictions of the outside cave or in the entrance area of the caves might act as an indicator as the purpose of the caves. So, lots more to go on, so we will have a lot more to talk about, and that's just, incredible. It's really cool. Interesting stuff. So, alright guys, well, I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys like the the whole goddess worship series, and Aphrodite, and we're really getting into the Paleolithic, the Neolithic, the Iron Age, all of that, and the Emergence, and how she really came to be, and it's pretty cool to me anyway. But alright guys, I love you all very much. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for all the love. I love you all the way from, put your V's up, Venus, all the way back down. And I will see you all tomorrow. So everybody have a good Sunday, and I love you all.